We've often heard of people raising animals, but how often do you hear about children being raised by animals? These children have been isolated from human contact from a very young age and grow up wild, sometimes being taken care of by animals. In other cases, these children have been confined by people, usually their own parents. They may have experienced severe child abuse or trauma before being abandoned or running away. The kids learn to do everything like animals and survive in inhumane conditions. Here are 10 kids who were raised by animals. But before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Number 10. Bello. Bello, a Nigerian chimp boy, was found in 1996 at the age of about 2. He had been abandoned by his parents at the age of just 6 months, and when found, he was completely mentally and physically disturbed. It's common practice with disabled children among the Fulani, who are a type of nomadic people who are found in a vast majority of the Western African Sahel region. Believed to have been adopted and raised by chimpanzees, Bello was found with a chimpanzee family. When first discovered, Bello walked like a chimpanzee, using his legs but dragging his arms on the ground. He would leap about at night in the dormitory, disturbing other children, smashing and throwing things. 6 years later, Bello was much calmer, but would still leap around in a chimpanzee-like fashion, make chimpanzee-like noises, and clap his cupped hands over his head repeatedly. Bello met a very sad end when he died in 2005. Number 9. The Indian Wolf Boy. Wolves raising kids might sound very weird, but there are a few cases of this actually happening. We are as shocked and surprised as you are. The same is the case of Dina Sanachar, one of the boys who lived at the Secandra orphanage. He was usually assumed to have been mentally subnormal. He was removed from a wolf's cave in 1867 when he was about 6 years old. Sanachar was discovered when hunters in the jungles of Bulandshahr were astonished to see a boy follow a wolf into her den, running on all 4 legs, just like a wolf. It was then they realized that he was being raised by the wolves. They smoked out the wolf and her companion and shot the wolf. He initially exhibited all the habits of a wild animal, tearing off clothes and eating food from the ground. He was eventually weaned off raw meat onto cooked, but never did learn to speak. He apparently became addicted to tobacco, and he died in 1895. Number 8. If you're not a cat person, you're probably not too excited about cats. But many people love to raise cats. But can you think of someone being raised by cats? Well, Argentinian police discovered an abandoned 1-year-old boy surrounded by 8 wild cats, in that as they approached the child, the cats became very protective and even aggressive. The police found that the cats had been keeping the child alive during the harsh winter by constantly licking him and staying on top of him, like a living blanket. To make things even more touching, they even brought him scraps of food, which they would not eat and save for him. Had it not been for the cats, the toddler would not have made it through the winter. The boy, who had been living with the cats for several days, apparently became separated from his homeless father while the latter was collecting cardboard to sell. The man later told police that cats always had been protective of his son. Number 7. A boy raised by dogs. Who doesn't love dogs? Better statement would be, who isn't loved by dogs? A kid from Chile, abandoned by his 16-year-old mother, was adopted by a group of dogs living in a cave close to a Chilean port. The dogs were like his family. He sucked milk from a female dog in the pack, and they looked for food together, mostly from dumpsters in the port. When police found him, he tried to run, desperately jumping into the water. A policeman jumped in and retrieved him. The boy was suffering from intense depression. He was very aggressive and even barked. But it was later revealed that he did know some Spanish. He could also draw, and was apparently aware that he was human, but still wanted to be reunited with his canine family. Number 6. Marina Chapman. Many know about Marina Chapman as she is an author in Bradford, England, but if you haven't read her book, you probably don't know about her past. Marina was kidnapped, probably for ransom, but was then abandoned in a Colombian jungle. She was lucky enough to be adopted by a group of capuchin monkeys, which are known to accept human children into their groups. The animals taught young Marina how to catch birds and rabbits with her bare hands, so she was able to survive and take care of herself. After 5 years, she was supposedly rescued by hunters, who found her and sold her to a brothel. Her struggles didn't stop, as she was working for a mafia family, but with courage, she was able to run away to Bradford and became a nanny there. Number 5. The Andes Goat Boy. The Andes Goat Boy was found in the Andes, Peru, in 1990, and was said to have been raised by goats for 8 years. Being in the wild, he developed the obvious feral characteristics. He's supposed to have survived by drinking their milk and eating roots and berries. He tended to walk with all 4 of his limbs. His hands and feet were hardened due to scar formation that acted like his hooves. After being found, the Andes Goat Boy was investigated by a team from Canvas University and named Daniel. He couldn't speak any language, but could communicate with goats. Number 4. Marcos Rodriguez. Marcos Rodriguez Pantoja was raised by animals too. Like many other kids, he had a tragic start to life, and he was reportedly sold to a hermetic goat herder at the age of 7, but soon found himself alone in the mountains. He could have gone back, but having suffered years of beatings from his stepmother, he preferred the solitude of the mountains to human company. He started to establish a special relationship with some animals, especially a family of wolves. His story is a very special one, not only because he lived for 12 years in the wild with the wolves and other animals, but also because he spent a lot of time trying to integrate back into society. He's 68 years old today and was only partly successful. He's told multiple times that he doesn't like being part of society. Gabriel Janner Manila went on to write a PhD thesis and a book about him. Marcos told Gabriel that the scariest moment of his life was when he returned to society. He also made a snake friend too, which followed Marcos around all the time and everywhere and never hurt him. Number 3. John Sebou Nia. Monkeys are said to be the closest related being to humans, but it's still surprising someone being raised by them in a jungle. One day, in 1991, a Ugandan villager called Millie Seba went further than usual in search of firewood and came upon a little boy with a pack of monkeys. She summoned help, and the boy was cornered up in a tree. He was brought back to Millie's village. His knees were almost white from walking on them. His nails were very long and curled round, and he wasn't house-trained. A villager identified the boy as John Sebou Nia, last seen in 1988 at the age of 2 or 3, when his father murdered his mother and disappeared. For the next 3 years or so, he lived wild. He vaguely remembers monkeys coming up to him after a few days and offering him roots and nuts, sweet potatoes and cassava. The 5 monkeys, 2 of them young, were wary at first, but befriended him within about 2 weeks and taught him, he says, to travel with them, to search for food and to climb trees. In October 1999, he went to Britain as part of the 20-strong Pearl of Africa Children's Choir. And with that, it's now time for today's subscriber pick. Today's photo was sent to us by one of our subscribers, so if you come across a photo online and want to know more details about it, just send it on over to us. We might even feature it on a future video. Number 2. This picture here is photoshopped, as we're not able to find anything related to it. As said earlier, it might be clearer to you that being raised by animals is not a very rare or impossible practice, as people over the years have been reported to be raised by even the wildest of animals like wolves. And during the process, the kids learn how to walk, run, eat, sleep, and everything, because, well, the animal is their animal for the time being. The picture also shows that a human is walking like an animal. We don't know which animal actually walks like that, but the person who made this was probably inspired by the kids who were raised by other animals. Number 1. Cambodian Jungle Girl. The so-called Cambodian Jungle Girl is a Cambodian woman who emerged from the jungle in the Ratanakiri province, Cambodia, on January 13, 2007. A family in a nearby village claimed that the woman was their daughter, Rocham Phiang. who had disappeared 18 or 19 years previously. The story was covered in most media as one of a feral child who lived in the jungle for most of her life. A Spanish psychologist who visited the girl reported she made some words and smiled in response to a game involving toy animals and a mirror, but did not speak any recognizable language. When she was thirsty or hungry, she pointed at her mouth. She preferred to crawl rather than walk upright. The family watched Rochom around the clock to make sure she did not run off back to the jungle, as she tried to do several times. In May 2010, Rochom finally fled back to the jungle. Despite searching, they've not managed to recover her. In 2016, it was reported that the woman's name was actually Talk, and she met with her biological father. She hasn't been missing since 1989, but only around 2006. Luckily, this story has a happy ending. Well, that's our list of 10 kids who were raised by animals. Which was the most shocking to you? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And as always, thanks for watching.